Everyone. Welcome. And today is our 20th session. We have come a long way. I think in terms of number of pages that we want to be doing, probably we may be about halfway already or close to it. Yeah. So it is about 18 chapters and we are still at close to chapter number 6. But in terms of number of pages, we might be about halfway. So I think we are making some a deep dive in these sessions in which we have discussed about in this chapter, uh, and it's very interesting that uh, to to listen to each other's perspective, and because each one of us have been with this thought for a long time, and it has gone through the churn, right? And we have seen this mature in us and ourselves also maturing along with that. So, so welcome, Estelle, and maybe you could actually start by saying something about the summarizing of the last, and then maybe we can start today's session.
Yeah, thank you, Rakeshi. Um, so um, to summarize what we were reading last week, I think we started by a loop that was describing how like the stage of awakening determines like everything we hope for and what we do, and based on that, that will in the end also influence our stage of awakening. So it can go negative, it can go positive, and there was way more detail about how, yeah, basically in human, there's effort for completeness, for awakening, but it can go both ways. We can understand and actually go that route, or if we don't understand, then we can be stuck in the other way towards problem and helplessness. And then the last aspect, when we were reading, we were talking about how material is always there. At some places it's there, some places it's not there, but overall it always exists. So there's no beginning, no end. And knowledge is omnipresent, so it's present everywhere all the time. And that's very important because knowledge is it's how we can attain happiness, and happiness we want continuous. So something there has to be continuous. And that's where we finished last week, and that's where I will continue the reading on from today. So the realization, coexistence itself, is the complete knowledge. In this way, matter proves to be increate and knowledge omnipresent. It is necessary to understand in the above context that the integration and disintegration activities observed in material order indicates existence of groups, the tendency in matter to be attracted to groups, and their densification, which is the way the law of attraction is manifest. Similarly, growth as a process of collecting along with grouping is observed in the biological order. For example, a biological cell collects diverse mineral substances and composes them. We learn from this that every unit of the biological order is engaged in composing and collecting activity in its own distinctive manner, demonstrating a strong and unwavering dedication to its own kind. Further, as an atom transcends into the sentient status upon development, constitutional completeness, it becomes free from the grouping of weight or molecular bonding. However, it becomes instantly associated with the bondage of hope. This hope manifests in the animal order merely to keep living, as the fear instinct. The animal order becomes free from grouping, but their instinctual activities exhibit the beginning of an intent for sociality as herd behavior, which is distinct from the biological order. From this, we learn that the desire that humans have at present to achieve sociality through sex also has fear as its root. Animals also exhibit processes, intentions, and tendencies for overcoming fear. Their pursuit of sensory gratification also mirrors that of humans. This underscores the necessity in humans to realize their essentiality, humanness, by acquiring their attributes and natures that are not found in animals in order to get rid of fear. This is the background for demarcating humanness, higher humanness, and inhumanness. The study of all aspects of sociality takes place on this basis only. In this way, the root cause of the desire in humans to come together and be united is their dharma of happiness. So I read quite a bit because I think it's flowing very well together. And sometimes there's one sentence that contains a lot, and it seems like for this book it seems like a little bit more actually speaking language that it's easier to understand. So here we see is talking about, there's grouping tendency. So there is in the matter, which will be in the form of integration, disintegration. And so, they'll form molecules and different groups, and that's manifest in the material order. And then the same can be observed in a different way in biological order. Well, they'll collect actually different things to and compose them. So that's that's distinct from the material order, but it's still grouping activity. And now when Jivan comes, so Jivan in the atom, because the atom isn't changing, there's no bonding tendency there. There's no need to form any molecule or group of molecule in the atom itself. But now the bondage is in the hope. And in the animal, it's just limited to hope of living. And that's why they will create herds. So there's like a little bit of sociality there, of grouping with others, but it is only with fear as its root, because they want to survive, they want to live. So by coming together, they have more chance. And so now we come to human. Now human has hope for happiness and living. But in deluded human, we haven't come out of like just the doing out of fear. We're grouping out of fear, whether it be like in the family, in the society, even the nation. We just have fear that the others will exploit, the others will attack. So at least if we come together, at least between each other, we won't attack and we can defend against each other. So we're basically now behaving like animals still. But as we saw, matter has its own way, plant has their own way, animal has their own way, and humans also have their uniqueness. And so we have to understand that, to realize humanness, and then we won't be grouping for out of fear. We'll be grouping because that's how we can realize the time of happiness. But coming together, we can understand and evidence and finally evidence the uniqueness of human beings, which is different from animals. And finally, to conclude this chapter, all humans are seekers of happiness, making continuous efforts to attain it and desiring its realization. With this common goal in mind, it becomes imperative for all humans to commit to the study, embrace the policies, and practice behaviors that lead to universal happiness. May there be universal well-being. So I really like this last paragraph. I think that all humans are seeking for happiness. They're all striving for happiness. They all want to realize happiness. And once we see that, this commonality, that we all have the same goal, then how do we achieve that? We have to commit to the study, embrace the policy, and practice the behaviors. And we were discussing that a little bit previous week. What is the policy and the behavior that nurture happiness? So I think it's a very nice conclusion and a good link to the next chapter. And that's really, yeah, we were discussing quite a bit also like the dharma of human, like the specificity, which is happiness and which comes from knowledge. So, and we all have it, that's universal. And that's what can allow like undividedness. Now we don't need to see separate because we actually all have the same goal and we can all achieve it. And there's not like more or less, someone can have some happiness, someone less. No, everyone can and should have happiness. So that's the end of chapter 5. And now I'll start chapter 6, which is a little bit shorter chapter. Chapter 6, Action and Consequence. Humans have wished happiness from their entire behavior. So it's linking from the previous chapter, like we hope for happiness. So now everything we do, because it's action, everything we do, there's a hope for happiness. Now, doesn't mean that we have got it so far. Support and adherence of the system and behavior that ensure happiness, resolution, and righteous utilization for all humans is the only method for attaining happiness. So there's only one way, and that we have to adhere to the system and behavior that ensure happiness, resolution, and righteous utilization. So it's not nothing we have to like indulge in the senses or quiet the senses. We have to actually engage in the system and behave in a way that ensure happiness and for all. And that's the only method to attain happiness. Every action encompasses the doer, objective, cause, effect, and consequence. The action is determined by the doer. The cause and objective are determined for the action. The consequence and effect are determined from the action. And the need is determined from the consequence and effect of the action. Doer. The extent to which thought aspect is deployed in a work itself denotes the doer of that work. Action. The effort for implementing a thought is referred to as action. Cause. The cause is understanding, which is the primary trigger for every subtle activity or thought. Coexistence is the fundamental trigger at the root of understanding. Thought is the background of an action, and background of thought is the cause. This in itself is the evidence of sanskar. Effect. The clear inspiration or exuberance for manifesting a certain consequence is referred to as effect. Every occurrence and consequence manifests only through inspiration and exuberance. An action's reaction is referred to as an effect. Consequence. The final result of an action is the consequence. Need. The needs are the towards fulfillment of relationships and associations, as well as for utilization. All situations inherently involve utilization, righteous utilization, and purposeful utilization. So now he's defining a little bit more what is action. And so action includes the doer. So the doer is really the thought that goes into what's going to be done. Like it's how much thought has been put to do an action that determines, like, that's actually the doer. Which maybe, I don't know, in materialism, the doer might be more seen as like the body is doing this, doing that, but that's like manifestation of my thought, and that's like the thought will really determine what I will do. So that is more the doer. And the is the effort for implementing that thought. That will be more coming into action into the world, like the materialization of that thought. The cause, so behind an action there is a thought, And behind the thought, there is a cause, which the cause is your understanding. And understanding is from coexistence. And so, yeah, if we don't have understanding, I guess there will still be a cause, but it's not linked with coexistence. And that's where we can see that maybe the result won't be what we hope for, but ideally, the cause will be rooted in coexistence. This itself is the existence of sanskar, so that's where it shows that actually, because sanskar is basically understanding, that's what we carry, and so it shows that based on our understanding, we'll do things and things will have an impact, and so that will leave an imprint, and so that's what sanskar is. And then the effect comes after we did an action, and the way I think I understand is the effect will be like more on me. Like I did an action, it will have an effect on me, like and that can be inspiration, that can be exuberance. And then there's the result, which is the result of the action can be seen more like outside in the world. I did the action, or what consequences it had also like on others, on the nature. So both are happening from the action. And then the needs. So we always do an action because there was a need to fulfill, and needs are usually, yeah, there's two kinds. Either you have to fulfill your relationships, or you have to work more with the nature, and you want to utilize the purpose in the system. And so the action is for a need, but also he's saying at the beginning, the need is determined from the consequence and effect. Yeah, from one action, there will be a result. And from that result, that will create actually another need. And then from that need, you'll do a different action. So there's really, you can see a link from action to action. Every action leads to the next need that will lead to the next action. The doer performs the work for satisfying a need. In other words, for adherence to duty or responsibility. Yeah, so every action, every work will be for a need, which I was saying can be duty or responsibility towards relationships or utilization. All human deeds are either towards development, awakening, or decline. Again, every action we do, either there's a direction of development towards awakening, we have understood, and now we are on the way to understanding, and we really want to commit ourselves, like to try to behave in a human way, and think and do in a human way, and then that all the actions will try to go towards development. Or if we do not understand, then it will go more towards decline. The cause, the background of action, is in the form of sanskar, has differentiation of exuberance or inspiration. The effect is only of three kinds: generative, degenerative, and mediative, which becomes apparent in the form of action-reaction. So the cause is in the form of sanskar, has differentiation of exuberance or inspiration. Yeah, so that's what we're saying, like behind every thought, behind every action, there's actually a cause, which is basically your understanding, or here saying again, sanskar. And that will be manifested as an inspiration, an exuberance. You're inspired to do something towards awakening. You're enthusiastic for that, and that's linked to the cause, before even the thought, like behind the thought of the action. And the effect can only be on three kinds: generative, degenerative, and mediative, which becomes apparent in the form of action, reaction, and result, consequence. Here I was trying to look like what's action, reaction, what's result. consequence. And one definition I found of like action reaction in the definition book, and I'm just translating like with Google Translate, or so it's, I know it might not be also perfect, but that's what I had. It was saying something like when we do an action with a deluded mind, then we get the opposite result of what we were expecting. So I don't know how it applies here. I don't know if action reaction is more like going the decline way, that would be degenerative, and result consequence would be more towards generative or mediative. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Also, the
So,
difference
so
between
I mean,
react.
maybe I could add over there, Estelle. So I think you said it quite well that there is behind every action there is sanskar, right, which is the cause, right? And then after that we say that it results the effect. Effect would be in in terms of exuberance or inspiration, right? Which means that the cause would result into the effect will be within us, it will be in the form of exuberance, or it would be inspiration is from someone else, and exuberance is the self inspiration, right? And then after that, this is going to result into some effect, right? Which means your action is going to result into some effect. It will start a chain of action and reaction, and it will have some result and consequence. So that is what it basically is trying to say, that as a once your action is triggered, it is going to result into a series of activities, right?
Mhm.
So that is what it is basically talking about.
Okay, thank you. So the consequence has two differentiations: complete consequence and partial consequence. Every action is performed only to satisfy some need. If the need is satisfied from the final outcome of an action reaction, then it is referred to as complete consequence. Else it is referred to as partial consequence. So the final result can be complete or partial or incomplete. And so yeah, every action we do to fulfill a need. And if the need is satisfied, then we can say that the result is complete. Otherwise, it will be incomplete. And I think we can see that if if the root actually will be based on understanding, then we should satisfy the need, and the consequence should be complete. But as long as we are not fully awakened, then there will always be a gap between what we want to fulfill and actually what gets fulfilled. And I guess if you're deluded, it might be even completely different result than what you expected. And probably as you get closer to awakening, the gap can reduce. And with awakening, then there should be no gap. You should exactly what you want to get as a result, you should get that result. And I think it's said many times, humans, deluded humans are like free when performing an action, but not free when experiencing the result. And awakened human is free both when performing and experiencing the result. So I think it's connected here. Yeah, the complete consequence happens from the synergy of the adequateness of the seeker, the aim, and the mean. So everything has to be in synergy, and then the complete consequence can happen. There is no awakening without humans embracing dutifulness towards humanness. No resolution prosperity without awakening. No universal humanness without resolution prosperity. No complete consequence without universal humanness. No exuberance or inspiration in tradition without complete consequence. and no embracing dutifulness towards humanness without exuberance or inspiration. I think this is very nice. So basically, we cannot attain awakening if we don't embrace dutifulness towards humanness. So we have to practice, actually, in the thought, in the behavior, in the work. We first have to practice. Otherwise, we cannot attain awakening. And without awakening, there cannot be resolution prosperity, because that's a result. We cannot just have resolution prosperity if we don't have proper understanding and realization, and then going back into the living, because resolution prosperity will be happening outside as a result, like as an expression. And if there's no resolution prosperity, then there cannot be universal humanness, meaning humanness is there and like for everyone the same. And for that, the aim is resolution prosperity. And without universal humanness, there's no complete consequence. So if there's no humanness, then the result will always be incomplete. And I think if we see complete consequence as like even wider, just like in general, what is the complete consequence? I guess it will be to just attain the purpose of like undivided society and universal orderliness. That would be the final result if like all human like families are resolved and prosper, then finally what we will see will be that. And so that cannot happen before all the previous. And without complete consequence, there cannot be exuberance or inspiration in the tradition. So if we don't see all these things, then we cannot get inspired from the tradition, you know? If today you look at unawakened tradition, then you cannot get inspiration for awakening if you actually don't see the result in the world. But once there is a tradition, then, you know, you naturally see that and you get inspired for it. And then from that, you embrace the duties. And so it's a nice it's nice to see that actually, yeah, it needs, once it's like in the tradition, then it will happen very naturally. Like a child is born, they can see the result already in the world, and they'll first copy that, and then they'll embrace the duty, and then they'll go towards humanness, and they'll participate in it, and they'll be part of the tradition that inspire others too. So I think it's beautiful to see, and yeah, it shows that also it's not something that I can just accomplish on my own. You know, you need an environment, and you need to practice with others, and then you need to see the result also in a bigger, you know, it can start smaller scale, the family, and then a group of family, but somewhere we need to come together, and it's linking to what we were saying before, that like coming together is for the time of happiness cannot happen on our own also. We need to receive inspiration ultimately for the tradition, but in the beginning, at least from other people around us who can show us a good way that we can also try to copy and aspire for. So I think that's a very nice paragraph. Humans become successful and happy by adherence to definite duties determined through understanding of humanness. Cause. The background for turning inherent impulsion into work through hope, thought, desire, and resolve is referred to as the cause. Effect. Sanskar, accomplished through environment, study, and practice, is the effect. Consequence. The effect of sanskara itself is the consequence. So here is defining in a little bit different way the cause, effect, and consequence. And I think it's more like connected to the understanding, because it starts by saying that we only get successful and happy when we follow the determined duties, and they're determined by understanding. And so here is defining the cause. I mean, it is defining the same thing, just from maybe a little bit different angle. But yeah, it's still the background that, you know, now we have this inspiration, this impulsion, we want to turn it into work, and we have given activities, hope, thought, desire, and resolve to make that happen. That's the background of any action. And then effect, sanskar, accomplished through environment, study, and practice, is the effect. Like, so when the actions are for awakening, for understanding, the effect, the final effect, it should be sanskar. And that's accomplished through environment, study, and practice. So again, you need an environment, and then you need to study yourself and also practice. It's not only intellectual, you have to actually practice it. And that's the effect, as we were saying, the effect is within. So one effect should be sanskar. And consequence, the effect of sanskar itself is the consequence. So once you have sanskar, then you actually participate based on that sanskar, and that will have consequence. And that should be the real consequence. The final consequence is based on sanskar. Now you have the result. The composition of the species conformant body and its union with Jivan takes place by way of adhyas in humans. The sanskar in the sentient aspect is in the form of attaining the awakening of man, vritti, chitta, and buddhi, which becomes apparent as humanness and higher humanness. Sanskar is the gift of awakened tradition. Adhyas. Adhyas is integral in the biological cells functioning in the biological order entities. It is embedded in the form of composition method, Rachna Vidhi, in the Prana Sutras. May there be universal well-being. So here he's explaining that, yeah, there's a species confirming something in the body, and up to even the union with the jivan. And that happens with adhyas. I don't know what would be a good, maybe in Pritz, I think we used to say, but so that happens in the cells, basically with the DNA, or like Prana Sutras, like life threads, or I don't know how we can translate, but that has nothing to do with the doer. Like, we don't do anything in there. That happens in the cells, just like, yeah, body's plant order, it happens, it's embedded in the cells, in the DNA, and that's why there's body conformance. But now sanskar, and that's how we carry like humanness in the tradition. And that happens in Jivan, and that's where we have to do something, actually. We have to awaken all the activities. And that's the gift of awakened tradition, because once there's awakened tradition, then sanskar is available in the tradition. You just have to get it from from education, but it's already available. And that's the real gift, because now we are carrying on humanness. So the tradition will be forever humane, because now there's sanskara. That's the seed, what gets carried. And so I think it's linking, because there's nothing to do in the body, but there's things to do for sanskar. And we have to, he was explaining, study, environment, practice. Then we get the sanskar. And sanskar you carry within you, but also it's available in the tradition. And that's why it's the gift of the tradition. And that's the end of the chapter 6, and that's the end of my reading. I finished quite early. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. I think that was really helpful for me. Like one aspect is just the sharing aspect. Like, I'm not very good at like speaking, and I'm not very comfortable, but I think, the more you do it, the better. And also for my own understanding, I can see, okay, I try to get something, and by reading and trying to share, I can see where I didn't get it yet. So there's further, so I think there's a good effect, and I'll take more actions because the result is not complete, but it's good to realize that it's not complete. It's part of the process. So thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful, Estelle. This was very nice, and I would not agree that you are not good in presenting. I think you are very good. You explained the concepts very well, especially for the flow of the thing that you described. So this was very well done. I think the whole idea of karma or the action and consequence, the chapter that you had read, has is a very complicated concept in the Hindu philosophy, right? And here in this darshan, it has become something very simple, right? It means that action is there, that it basis of that is sanskar, and jivan is the one that carries forward sanskar. And then so that becomes an easy to understand things. There is no personal account and there is no account keeper of our sins and virtues, right? So that kind of a thing is not there. Instead, there is a concept of sanskar, which is the impression that you have about your acceptances for completeness. And as you progress with that, there is a point of reaching of its completeness. And then once you reach that completeness, then your alignment with the way existence is becomes also complete, and you start getting complete results, right? Which you talked about. So thank you so much for doing so the hard work for for all of us. You made the chapters alive, both of you. So I will now open the floor for any questions that might be there for you, or anybody wants to make any observations or comments. Sanjeev bhaiya, you want to say something? Sanjeev bhaiya is on mute. Sheila Didi, you want to say something? Everybody's very silent. So, so, so
Um,
once,
can I
yeah,
can I ask a question?
yes, of
Like,
course, please.
thanks. I just wanted to know, like with sanskar, like when they say sanskar is carried over in the tradition, and the sanskar is impressions, is it just impressions which are in alignment with coexistence? Just those impressions, or other impressions as well? Would they also count as sanskar, or is it just those?
My understanding is that uh, it is both, but the indelible impressions that you have are only the ones which are aligned with coexistence. Those are the acceptances of completeness. They are once those acceptances do not get shaken because they are the acceptances of completeness. And prior to that, though the impressions that are there, they can change. So they are in the form of tendencies, but these can change. But the acceptances of coexistence are the final ones, and they do not change, because that's once you have the correct understanding, it is impossible to change it. It is something like an example that I could take. Suppose you want to uh, learn how to cycle, right? And suppose you have learned how to cycle correctly. Now, even if you want, you can't make yourself fall, right? Because it becomes impossible for you to fall. While until you have learned it, you keep falling from the cycle. So it is like that. So acceptances of completeness are something that once you have understood, it is not possible to actually forget. In fact, these are not just in the terms of memory, these are in terms of the acceptances at the level of buddhi, which is on one level subtle than chit.
Right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because they would just keep changing until they're complete, and then once they're complete, they can't change because they're ultimate and they're true, so they will last, right?
Yes.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one thing that helps me to understand is like once it's complete and it won't change, it's like also it's stored in buddhi, so in jivan, so even next life. So let's say, you go to another planet, there's no tradition there. Because you have sanskar, you won't be satisfied, and that's where you can do discovery, because now you have the imprint of like awakening and your realization. So you won't just go for like a spiritualism or materialism. You'll have to find a better way. But if you don't have sanskar, then you'll just go along with the flow, and your impression can change. But once it's there, it's really there. Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
That makes
that's an important thing.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to say something? Otherwise, we will close today's session a little early today.
Yeah. If no
Um,
one has a question, I have one.
sure.
Yeah, you started to touch on it. You were saying, in Hinduism, the karma is very different. And I was actually thinking about that. I think because here we hear karma, but it's very loose. And I thought, oh, probably in this context, this chapter is actually very, you know, more important, because now you're trying to see the difference between, okay, karma in the Hinduism or Buddhism and karma in coexistence. And so if you said it's very complex, but if you could try to explain how you see the difference between the two.
Yeah, so one thing that you can see is that um, the karma, as it is understood in both Buddhism and in Hinduism, is individualistic. Okay, so it's my karma, so my and therefore whatever the consequence will be of my consequence. So each individual entity is carrying as if an account of their actions, and they will be delivered the consequence according to their deeds. So, so over here, the approach is different. Okay. Here you are saying is that the Jivan is actually making, the Jivan is making the actions, or the human being is performing the actions, and that action is being made in conjunction with others, right? So the result is coming in the coexistence. It is not that each person is having their own results, they are carrying an account of results. So what exactly is Jivan carrying forward? It is not carrying forward what results that they would get. It is carrying forward the tendencies or the impressions of understanding, right? And the context of living is developed as one actually takes the new birth. The new context of that Jivan actually happens, and the Jivan begins with the same impressions and the tendencies in the new context. So there is a continuity of Jivan, but not in terms of what specific out results that you will get. The carrying forward is only in terms of the tendencies and the impressions. But the specific relationship matrix is going to be determined in the new context altogether. So that is one difference that you basically see, is that there it seems to be that you will get the result. The result is tied to the individual. Here you are saying that the effect is tied, or the tendency is tied. The result is something that is a shared thing. So some of the things that become very difficult to actually explain in the karma philosophy, like for example, mm, like the the Hiroshima instance, like what was the fault of those children and those people who died over there? Was it that they actually made, was it their bad karma? As per the philosophy, it is that, right? But here it is not being said in that fashion. Yeah. So so in the same sense, we're saying that suppose somebody makes Babaji, for example, worked on this darshan and has presented it to the world. Now, it is not that he's only the person who is partaking the results of that actions. That result of his action are actually getting distributed to the whole humankind, right? So it means that uh, the 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 karma and the result of that are not tied to an individual only. They are actually in coexistence. So that is so those are some of the differences that you can actually say. I had actually listed down a few points. Maybe I'll share it in the group after this session. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
thank
hope.
you. That helps.
Okay. Yeah. So anyone else wants to add to this or anything wants to say? Okay, so maybe we will close today's session. And thank you, Spencer and Estelle, for the wonderful sessions. Both of you done a fine job. Proud of you, and want to see you both doing more of these things. Yeah. Wish you all the best in everything that you do.
Thank
Thank you so much. We're always down for more.
Take
Great.
care.
Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.